April 2016, that is when I finally found the name of the monster that I have been coexisting with. The name of the monster was premature menopause. In hindsight, I found myself wondering, how come I knew nothing about premature menopause? But as it was, even menopause on its own, I was clueless about. I had vivid recollections of my grandmother sweating profusely after taking a bath, or on random winter's evening asking for the door to be opened. Cue social settings, older ladies sitting, talking about a hi. I had no idea that in one of the days I was also going to be in the same boat as them. I was 37, going on 38, living my best life, working as a flight attendant, traveling the world. And then I started presenting with symptoms. Symptoms that I never connected to be linked to menopause because I knew nothing about it. When I got the hot flashes, even my mom looked at me one time and asked me when was the last time ngikhipha inyongo, meaning when was the last time that I actually detoxed. She promised me that when we got home into Peter Marisburg, she was going to get me something. Needless to say, that thing did not work. Cue insomnia. Yet again, no connection because I'm working as a flight attendant, traveling the world, so the time zone changes were a thing. Night sweats, blankets on, blankets off, one foot out, both feet out. A bit of relief. I started coexisting with even things like weak and brittle nails, lactose intolerance. All of this, as time was progressing, they grew. At some point, I remember feeling like there was something that was sitting in my chest, always feeling like I needed to cry it out. Church became that place that I actually look forward to going to because during praise and worship, while the worship team was going on, I would be able to cry it out. People looking at me, they wouldn't be surprised because is she being moved by the praise and worship team or what is going on? Nobody could tell. But I knew that I was just on a mission to relieve myself of what I was feeling. Then the thoughts started getting dark. I sank into a depressive state. I started becoming a wallflower. And while becoming a wallflower, I was also struggling with brain fog at work. As you know, flight attendants were always on stage. Lights, camera, action. Good day, ma'am. Good day, sir. Welcome on board. I started struggling with forgetting little things that passengers will ask for. And that further dented my self-confidence and my self-esteem. Wallflower moments became worse. Whenever I was not at work, at home, I started preferring staying in bed. The thought of getting out of bed to take a bath was just too much work. I'll wonder, if I miss a bath for one day, is the world really going to stop? Like, no, the world is not going to stop. Getting out of bed to brush my teeth? I've seen homeless people that have gone for months without brushing their teeth. So I continued burning in bed. I also lost a lot of weight during that time because even the thought of just nourishing myself, feeding myself, taking care of myself was no longer a thing. I valued life. But during that time, I started wondering, what was the whole point of being here? We're going to die anyway. And I was longing for this peace that I did not know how to get. I started picturing myself whenever I'll be driving, letting go of the steering wheel, just crashing, then it will all be over. Then possibly I'll get the peace that I was looking for. But because my mission was not done on this planet Earth, I had an epiphany one day. The cloud suddenly moved away. And then being the generation of Google, I started thinking of all the symptoms, then I just typed them away. And then that's when I saw that possibly I could have gone into premature menopause. But because if menopause happens before the ages of 45, you cannot self-diagnose. I needed to go for a consultation. If menopause happens between the ages of 40 and 44, it is early menopause. And then anything that is younger, then it is called premature menopause. I went to my GP consultation. He told me that if the medication he had given me does not work, then I was going to have to go for further tests. When I eventually managed to get an appointment, I was told that I had to wait for 3 months, which I knew that I did not have because every day I felt like I was slowly losing a grip of life. That's when I remembered to contact my own gynecologist, and he was very available, and he took his time, educated me. And that is one of the things that some of the younger women do not get. Medical practitioners that have time, that are able to educate and enlighten them about this phase of life. After knowing what I was experiencing, then I was ready to tackle that monster head on. I needed relatability, obviously. And to get relatability, it meant talking to my friends. And that is one of the drawbacks that came with premature menopause, the identity crisis. Trying to speak to my friends, they did not get what I was going through. So I moved from them to the other side to try to speak to the older ladies. And they will be so quick to shoo me away, saying that, what are you wanting to talk about? This is an older woman's phase of life. I found myself suspended in the air, and I had to rediscover my own new identity for myself so that I could continue to thrive and live my best life. And then we add the infertility part that comes with this phase of life. Nobody tells us that as we're getting older, the chances of falling pregnant already, they're getting slimmer. Hence, we do not know much about freezing of the eggs. We do not know enough about in vitro fertilization. We do not know enough about surrogacy or adoption. I found myself chuckling at the thought of freezing of the eggs, because I could just picture how, if people were to know that that's the route that one could have gone to conceive, they will call your child frozen. Anyway, then you cue the mjolo part, the dating, the relationships. When is the right time to tell the potential love interest that you've gone into premature menopause? I got various advice from the people that genuinely cared about me. They said, no, you mustn't tell them. Reel them in, get them hooked. Then you let them know. To me, that was unfair. I believe that everybody needs to have that freedom of deciding whether they want to be part of a relationship or not. So the sooner you tell the person, the quicker they can make a decision for themselves, especially if they do not have children of their own. So you cannot drop them off of that. Fortunately for me, I had a conversation with myself when I turned 30. I wanted to find out, did I want to have children or not? And the answer was a resounding no. Yet I still had to grieve the freedom of the loss of choice. Something when I thought about, I had to empathize for a woman that still wanted to have children, and that opportunity was robbed from them. And then there is the misdiagnosis also. Premature menopause is so understudied and so under-researched. So to the point that when women that are deemed to be young, when they go for consultations, normally they are misheard. They get misdiagnosed, sometimes, especially if they are presenting with symptoms like your depression, mood disorders, then they will be put on antidepressants unnecessarily, only to find that the issue was more hormonal than anything. Through this phase of premature menopause, since 2016 up until now, it has taken me to different places doing research work. I have had a book out that speaks about my experience. It touches on academia, because people need to know as much as possible about this phase of life. And when I was doing the research around menopause through the cultural lens, it was very interesting to find out that most of the ladies that I would think that they knew about this phase of life, because I deemed them to be the custodian of knowledge, they were clueless about it. Firstly, because of the lack of the right words. We do not have the words for this phase of life in our languages. And South Africa already has 12 languages. And I had to explain to them that I am looking for information about this phase of life by starting to explain what puberty is in Zulu, which is ukuthomba. Then by the time I got to the some information that I needed, I could hear the penny dropping and like, oh, but still there was no word for it. I had been on a mission to find the right word for it that spoke positively about this phase of life, because already we know that menopause is shrouded in shame, in secrecy, because there is that belief that it means that your value and worth as a woman is over. And the word that came to my spirit was ukuqhakaza, which means to bloom. Interestingly, the cover of my book has got flowers. The logo of Redefining Menopause Africa has got flowers. So moving forward, that is the word that I am opting to use. And I am inviting you to help me also to translate this word to all of the other languages so that whoever reaches this phase of life can mention and speak about it without feeling insecure or assurance being dented. We also need to make sure that men are part of these conversations because they coexist with us as women. Sometimes they are fathers to a teenage girl that might be that 0.0%, let me say 0.01% that goes into premature menopause. So they need to be able to know how to address this phase of life, support them and love them. We need to be able to have the traditional healers work together with the medical practitioners because sometimes this phase of life can be dubbed as a calling for somebody that is hearing the ringing in the ears. So we need these forces to join together to make sure that women are taken care of during that phase of life too. We need corporate SA to be part of these conversations because women are thriving normally before menopause, but once they hit this phase of life, then they struggle. They even bypass promotional opportunities because their self-confidence is affected and it is dented. We need the church to be part of this conversation because we know that praying and spiritualizing menopause is not the only way to address it. We need everybody to be part of this. The Department of Health, they need to make sure that classes are held for the women when they come to the clinic. We need the Department of Correctional Services to be part of this because nobody is advocating for the women that are behind bars. As I remove my mask and speak about my experience with premature menopause, I am hoping that I am inspiring many more women to be able to remove their masks and say that this is my experience and it does not diminish my value or my worth. I can still live my best life and thrive through every phase of my life. Let us strive through menopause. Let us embody it and show the younger generations that life does not mean that it's over. Thank you.